Bruchim Habaim. Welcome everyone. I would like to express my gratitude first to the Epic family, Rabbi Goodman, Rabbi Cohen, for giving me this wonderful opportunity to share with you Divrei Chizuk about the most important topic that is relevant to our lives today, and that is the subject of Chinuch Habanim. Our children, they are the next generation, they're the future of the Jewish people, and there is nothing more important than the proper perspective, attitude, and approach to Chinuch Habanim. However, before we can acquire and study what methods, what techniques we need to use for proper chinuch, we first need to identify and define our role as parents. What is the definition of being a parent? Because if we cannot define what it means to be a parent, then we cannot even begin to approach the subject. And I believe we're going to discover something quite revolutionary. You know, when the Torah compares the way that Yaakov Avinu spoke to his father as opposed to Esav, Rashi is quick to point out that there are two basic distinctions. And that's the reason why Yitzchak was incredulous that the man standing in front of him was Esav. It sounded like Yaakov. That's why Yitzchak said, HaKoil kol Yaakov v'hayadayim yidei Esav. Rashi points out that the person standing in front of him, when he was asked, how did he make it back so quickly, he said, well, ki hikra Hashem leikecha lefanai. He invoked the name of Hashem. He also said, kum na, get up please. He also used words of courtesy, politeness. He said, please. Esav did not commonly use the name of Hashem, and he did not say please, and this made Yitzchak somewhat suspicious. Who indeed is the person standing in front of him? However, the Chassam Sofer points out that there's a third difference between the way Yaakov spoke to his father and the way Esav spoke to his father, and in this sense, it almost seems like Esav had more honor to his father than Yaakov did. And that is, the Chassam Sofer says, when Yaakov spoke to his father, he said, Kum na, get up please. He spoke to him in second person. Like you speak to your friend, get up please. However, when Esav comes in, Esav says, Yakum Avi, will the tata get up? Will the father get up? Third person, the way like you would speak to a rebbe or a rabbi. And it almost seems like Esav has more respect for his father than Yaakov did. Whereupon the Chassam Sofer says that he has a tradition from his great Rebbe, Reb Nosson Adler, that actually the proper way to address one's parent is not third person, but rather second person. The Chassam Sofer says in the Gentile world, they may address their parent third person. That is because there's a certain disconnect, a generation gap, a certain separation between parent and child. But in Judaism, according to the Hashkafa of the Torah, father and son, parent and child, are so connected, are so close, there's such a warmth that a child does not refer to the father in third person, rather the child says, Kum na, get up please. That's because there's an idea, Bra kara de avu, a child is the leg of the father. A child brings merit to the father. And therefore, a child speaks to a parent in second person. From here we see that a very important element of parenting is the closeness between child and parent. We're going to go so far as to say that this is not just an element of parenting, because I want to take you to the episode in the Torah, the subject in the Torah, the subject of the Masis. The Masis is the seducer, someone who persuades another Jew to leave the religion and to serve Avodah Zarah. And the pasuk refers to different close individuals in your life who may do this to you. The pasuk says, Achicha, Benimecha, your brother, Oy bincha, or your son, Oy bitcha, or your daughter, or even Oy eshes chekecha, maybe your wife, Oy reacha asher kenafshecha, or your friend that's like your soul friend, your best friend. Who is this individual that the Torah refers to as Reacha Asher Kenafshecha, your best friend? Says Rashi, says the Heilige Rashi. Rashi was Avihen v'Rabban Shel Yisrael, the Rebbe and the father of the Jewish people. Rashi says, you know who this best friend is? Ze Avicha. It's referring to your father. Says Reb Shimon Schwab, from this simple comment of Rashi we see that being your child's friend is not an element of parenting. Being your child's friend is the very definition of parenting. In fact, says Reb Schwab, when Yosef reveals himself to his brothers, and he says, don't worry, don't sweat it, don't be concerned. Yosef says to his brothers, Vayisimeni la'av leparai. God made me a father to Parai. A father? What does that mean, la'av leparai? Says Rashi, la'av lechaver, a friend, ula patron, and a patron, and a supporter, an advocate. Says Reb Shimon Schwab, from this simple comment of Rashi, we see that being your child's friend is not merely an element of parenting, it is the very definition of parenting itself. It is the identity of parenting. It is the mahus and essence of parenting. Says Reb Schwab, we can trust Rashi, the father of the Jewish people, to define for us what does it mean to be a parent. If I may share with you one more illustration. When Yaakov Avinu was running away from Lavan, and finally Lavan catches up with him, and the pasuk says, Yaakov says to his brothers in Bereshis, Parak Lamed Aleph, pasuk Mem Vav, Vayomer Yaakov le'echav, liktu avan. Rashi's bothered. What do you mean Yaakov says to his brothers? He doesn't have brothers. He has one brother, Esav, and he's certainly not calling Esav to help him out. Says Rashi, who are his brothers? His sons, Heim Banav. Comes the Chida, Reb Chaim Yosef David Azulai. And he says again, from Rashi we learn that at least to your older children, you need to treat them not like inferiors. Don't act as if you're the superior. You treat them like they're your brothers. And if you do that, you will have a peaceful and calm household. In fact, the Chida even quotes the Sefer Chasidim, who brings a support to this idea. We know there's a famous pasuk, Hinei ma toivu manaim sheves achim gam yachad. The numerical value of achim gam is banim, which indicates, says the Chida, that if you treat your children achim gam, that is the correct way to treat one's children. Treat your banim like achim gam, like they're your brothers. And I was very taken. I enjoy very much studying the works of the Chida. The Chida wrote a wondrous book called Shem Hagadolim. In the Shem Hagadolim, the Chida quotes his son, Rabbi Avram, and he says, I heard from Yedid Nafshi, my beloved friend, his son, Rabbi Avram. So this is not something the Chida merely preached, this is something he lived, where he treated his children like they were his brother. And I found in the writings of the Chafetz Chaim that the Chafetz Chaim's son brings that their father treated them not like children, but like friends, like brothers. So we see the entire gamut of the history of the Jewish people, from Rashi, Sefer Chasidim, Chasam Sofer, the Chida, the Chafetz Chaim, that this is the Mesorah of the Hashkafa of our Torah, that it's important that a parent cultivates a relationship of friendship with a child. The child will understand you're the authority. The child knows you're the link to Sinai, but it should be given over in the context of friendship. And although this may sound like a revolutionary new vogue idea, it is well documented from Gedolim today, Reb Shimon Schwab, going back all the way for the Chafetz Chaim, Chasam Sofer, Chida, Sefer Chasidim, and Rashi. I want to share with you another amazing comment of Rashi that will also create for us a reality shift in our attitude and our perspective towards Chinuch Habanim. The greatest challenge anybody was ever given was Akedas Yitzchak, where the Rebbeinu Shalom comes to Avram. He says, Avram, Vayi achar hadvarim ha'ela v'leikim nisas Avram vayomer Avram. And what does Abraham say back to the Rebbeinu Shalom? Vayomer elav hineni. Behold, here I am. Rashi says, what does it mean, hineni? Lashon anava v'lashon zimam, a lashon of humility and being prepared. A little while later, Avraham and Yitzchak are walking, and Yitzchak is getting a little suspicious, so he turns to Avraham. Vayomer lav, Avi, Tata, what's going on? What does Avraham say back to Yitzchak? Vayomer lav, hineni, behold, here I am. Wait a second. That was the exact same word that Avraham used when speaking to the Almighty. That was a word of humility and preparedness, being prepared. And now he's using that very word to his son. He's talking to his son with the same humility that he speaks to the Almighty. Says Rav Gamliel Rabinovich, one of the leading Mikubalim and Mashpiyim today. From this simple comment of Rashi, we understand, we learn, that the same way you have to speak to the Almighty with humility and humbleness, one must speak to their children with humility. Says Rav Gamliel, what we ask of our children today, to leave, to forsake, to turn their eye on, to close their eye to, the allure of the street, the allure of the material world, the allure of the glamour of Olam Hazeh, that is nothing short of an Akedah. That is a sacrifice no less than the Akedah. How do you think Avraham was successful in raising a child that was going to listen and sacrifice his life? It's because Avraham spoke to him with humility. That Yitzchak understood that Avraham valued him. And Avraham spoke to him with anivus. Well, if Avraham needed to speak to his son Yitzchak with the anivus, in the same anivus that he spoke to the Almighty, and what we ask our child today is nothing less of an Akedah, we must learn the lesson of Avraham, to speak to children with the humility that we have to the Creator of the universe. That's how we have to speak to our children. And Ram Gamliel, in one of the earlier editions of his work, said a line from his mother that has since been taken out. So I'm sharing this with you with many grains of salt. And don't take it at face value. And it sounds almost like something you can't say, and you really can't say it, and that's why they took it out. But I want you just to hear it, but then forget about it, just as a way of putting into context of what we're learning. Ram Gamliel would say, and again it was taken out of the next edition of the Sefer, that if the Torah was written today and you can't even say those words, so don't say them. But his mother would say, nowadays it's not honor your father and mother, it's honor your son and your daughter. Understand the context that this was said in, take it with many grains of salt, but these were the words that Ram Gamliel's mother said, that he printed and subsequently took out of the next edition. But you're a mature and sophisticated audience, so you understand the point I'm bringing out, but don't take it completely literally. But the idea is that if we want to be successful in raising great children, this Ram Gamliel says and continues to print in the next editions, that how do you think Avraham was successful in raising a Gadol Hadar like Yitzchak Avinu? It's because he spoke to him with great humility and great anivos. So these are keys to developing the proper approach to Chinuch. Realize and recognize that friendship is not merely an element of parenting, but the very definition of parenting. It is critical that we speak to our children with great humility. And let me end off with a medrash. The medrash tells us in the Yalkut Shemaini that Tanad Ve'Elyo, there's a story with a Kohen who is a God-fearing Jew. He had 10 sons, 10 children, 6 boys, 4 girls. Every day he would roll in the dust and he would pray that they should grow up on the straight and the narrow. Says the medrash, this man was zoichet to go up to Eretz Yisrael with Ezra, and this Kohen did not pass away until he was zoichet to see Kohanim Gedolim and great high priests from his children and his grandchildren for 50 years. What do we learn from this medrash? Says the Shlach HaKadosh, from this medrash we learn that after all is said and done, the most important ingredient in raising good children is tefillah. Tefillah is the key ingredient. The Mishnah Berurah writes, quoting from the Shlach HaKadosh, every father and mother needs to be in the habit, it should be shagor b'fihem. The lashon of the Mishnah Berurah, tamid tia tfilas ha'av v'ha'em shkura b'fihem. It should be common and frequent in the mouth of a parent, lehispalel al b'neim, to pray for their children. What should one pray for? The Mishnah Berurah says three primary things. She'yiyu loimdei Torah, they should learn Torah. V'tzadikim, they should be righteous. Ubale midos tovos, and good character. And the Mishnah Berurah from the Shlach HaKadosh identifies three key places in davening that one should invest tremendous kavanah. Number one, in Birchas HaTorah, when one says, V'niya anachnu v'tzetzo'enu, kulanu yoidei shemecha, when one davens that one's children should learn Torah and it should be sweet in their mouths. A second juncture is when you say in Ahava Rabbah, Avinu av harachamon, hamerachim rachim aleinu v'sein b'libeinu. And then, at the end of Uvalat Tzion, when you say L'man loy niga l'rik v'loy ne'el b'hala, that Hashem should not let us give birth to emptiness, to bahala, that our children should be productive Jews. But it's not only these three intervals, because the lashon of the Shla in the Mishnah Berurah is tamid tia shigura b'fiyam. It should be frequent in your mouth. A parent should be davening for their child the entire day. You're at a red light, utilize the opportunity to pray for your children. You're driving carpool, utilize the opportunity to pray for your children. You're walking down the street, you're going for a walk, take a minute to pray for your children. You're on the way to the store. This should be something that a parent does throughout the day, all day long. It's never too early. A child is never too young. Even before they're born, you have to start davening for them. And even if you're a grandparent or a great-grandparent, the obligation never stops. I'll share with you one final story. Parents once came to Reb Chaim Kanievsky's father, the Stipler Gaon. And they came to the Stipler for advice in raising children, advice of methods, methodologies. And the Stipler said, there are no techniques, there are no methods. All there is Tehillim, Tefillah, and tears. This was many years ago. The Stipler says, you see my boy over here, Chaimol? Every day I daven that Chaimol should be a Yirei Shamayim, a Loimei Torah. Friends, at that point of time, Chaimol was 52 years old and was already one of the Gedolei Hadar. And his father did not stop davening for his spiritual success. So this is our greatest obligation in this world, to pray for the spiritual, physical, and emotional success of our children. And as we know, the Shlach HaKadosh identifies that Erev Rosh Chodesh Sivan is one of the most opportune times the whole year to daven for this, but it's not limited to that day, it's not limited to that month. It is a lifelong obligation and practice that every parent has to develop this habit where praying for one's child and one's children is the lifelong obligation of every parent. May our tefillos be niskabel, barachamim, uveratzain. We should all be zoicha to children, chachamim, nevoinim, yirei Elokim, oyavei Hashem, and may they all be meirim es ha'olam b'Torah v'masim tovim. May all of our children illuminate the world with limud Torah, masim tovim, yiras shamayim, midos tovos, ad bias gael tzedek. Thank you very much.